to another POV drive in my 2006 Honda Civic Coupe. As you can see, the roads aren't great over here. I think they'll get a little bit better once we get a little bit further out. It's a little bit slippery yet. But I have not driven this road in a little bit, so I'm not entirely sure what they will be like. But either way, I think this will be a fun drive and hopefully a good YouTube video. So in this video, I'm going to talk about this car a little bit more, do a bit more of a review, kind of what it's like to live with an 8th gen Honda Civic, just daily driving it. Obviously, it's got the manual. Do I like that? Do I not like it? I don't know. I do know. I actually really like it. I'm not going to complain about that because it's a ton of fun. Since we're driving on quite icy, snowy roads right now, let's start by talking about how this car actually drives in the snow or just in winter. And it's honestly really surprised me how well it's been so far. I've been driving around quite a lot in lots of heavier snow, and it is quite low, so I've hit plenty of ice chunks with the bottom of my front bumper and whatnot. But other than that, it's been pretty much okay. Of course, it is a super light car, so it gets thrown around quite a lot, but that's really the worst thing about it. Obviously, it is front-wheel drive, so it doesn't get the best traction in the snow when you're taking off from a stop sign or something like that, but it's really not terrible. Granted, I also have really good tires on this car right now. They are the Michelin Cross Climate 2s. They're amazing tires. I believe they're some of the highest rated all-season tires ever. And I mean, I can testify to how well these things work in the snow. They're absolutely incredible. I love it. Yeah, I love the tires. They work amazingly. I mean, they work like a good snow or all-season tire should. That looks really, really cool. And just overall, this car in the winter has been amazing. I haven't had any issues with it. It hasn't really been too scary at any time. I really like the steering in this car too. It's nice. It's quite light, but if you're going a little bit faster, then it weights up pretty nicely, which is really nice. I really like that. The steering is also kind of what you'd expect it to feel like from an older car. I mean, it's from 2006, so it's nothing like the new cars where you can just steer it with one finger no matter what speed you're going, and it just feels like a wheel that you can spin endlessly with absolutely no resistance whatsoever. I don't like the steering in new cars. So if you're thinking about buying a new car and you like that super crazy light steering, then maybe go for something a little bit newer. I personally like having feedback from the steering wheel when you can feel what's going on underneath your tires. I really like that over just the super light, just like, I don't know, that's just one thing I really don't like about newer cars. It's just, the steering's so light, it's kind of dumb. I don't like it. The ride in this car is also pretty nice. I mean, it's a small little car, so it's not gonna be the best in the world, you know, it's no luxury. There's a nice example of how this ride is. I'm sure the camera's shaking a whole bunch sitting on top of my head, but it's not terrible. I mean, it's fine. It doesn't bother me at all. It's pretty bumpy, I'll be honest, and especially if you hit some bigger potholes or something like that, you can feel all the bumps for sure, but it absorbs it all pretty nicely. It's not bouncing around after you hit it or anything. It just kind of takes it. You feel it for sure, but it kind of takes it, you know, takes it gently. There's also quite a lot of road noise in this car, especially on the highway. If you're just cruising down the highway going 70 miles an hour, it's pretty loud. Like, it's not too loud, but it's like if you got music playing and you want to be able to hear the music and then you're trying to talk to a passenger or something, it's a little bit much. I mean, you can carry a conversation over the noise, but you just kind of have to talk a little bit louder than you normally would. So it's not a huge problem, and I mean, I rarely have passengers in this car anyways. I'm usually just driving everywhere by myself. I mean, if you want like a super comfortable car, something takes the bumps amazingly well, super quiet inside, everything like that, this is probably not what you're looking for, because it's not great in those areas, I'll be honest. I really like the interior of this car though too. The seats are nice and comfortable. I like how everything in here is just really like pointed at the driver. I didn't really notice it a ton before I actually sat in the passenger seat and like looked at it all, but everything's just like within arm's reach. It's all just right here pointed straight at you. You can see everything really easily. It's really nice. No big old touch screens to mess with right there or anything either. I don't like touch screens in cars. I think it's just the best like this. Like, I don't mind the digital speedometer. I like that I actually still have a regular tach. I really don't like digital tachs because you don't get to watch the needle rise and fall, and you can't really see how far up you are in the revs and everything. But you know, I still don't like any big screens or anything. This is all you need. It just tells you the time and tells you like what radio station you've got on or something. That's all you need. Like, why do you need a whole freaking iPad right there? I don't get it. I don't like it. Right over here you can probably hear how noisy it is in the cabin. Going over lots of ice and little bumps and whatnot here. It's quite loud, quite bumpy. And of course, because it's a manual, every time you pull up to a stoplight, you gotta do the little manual shake before you take off. I don't make the rules. I mean, that's just something you gotta do. Back to the whole driving a manual thing as well. I absolutely love driving the manual. This is my first car, but for a little while before I bought this car, I was driving our kind of family car, which is a Chevy Traverse. That's obviously not a manual. And it was a car, you know, it was fine. But this car, I mean, obviously there's other things that play into enjoying the car every time you drive it, because it's just this little tiny car that handles incredibly well, and it's almost somewhat fast. I mean, of course the manual plays a huge part in the enjoyment of this car, but I know some people that daily drive manual cars and they really don't like it, but I personally love it. I think it's just a ton of fun. That's another thing I love so much about this car. You can really rev it out and have a lot of fun in this thing without hardly going over the speed limit. I mean, this car really doesn't accelerate much past like 70. So I mean, by the time you get up to highway speed, you're really like at the max of its acceleration. I mean, really anything past like 60 doesn't give you a whole lot. But second gear will take you a little over 50 if you go all the way up to redline, which I don't like to do all that often, but every now and then when I really want to rev it all the way up to redline, hit the VTEC and everything, you know. One of my absolutely favorite things about this car is the gas mileage. It's pretty insane. It's advertised at like 30 to 40 miles per gallon, which is incredible. Depending on how I drive, I can usually make it up to like about 2 weeks without filling up, and then when I do fill up, it's like, I think the most I've ever spent with gas like a little bit more expensive as well was like 34 bucks or something like that. That was with the low fuel light on. I was at like 2 dots on my fuel bar there. So I was pretty much all the way empty after, you know, over 2 weeks, and it still hardly cost me over 30 bucks. So that's another reason I love this car. And even when I'm driving it in a bit more of a fun way, or more spirited driving, I can still make it like, you know, a week and a half without refilling, and then it only costs me like 25 bucks or something when I do. So it's really not that bad at all. This is like the perfect high schooler car, you know, because I don't want to spend a whole lot on gas, but I want to have fun with it. It's a Honda, so I'm not worried about reliability. It's just a great little car. I love this thing so much. As you can see, this car is plenty fast for me. I don't have any problem with this amount of power. It's only got like 140 horsepower, but it's still fun. I love it. The engine sounds pretty good when you really rev it out. It's just a fun little car. Like I said earlier, it handles incredibly well. The manual makes it so much fun. It's just, I love this little car. If you want to see some more cool videos about this car, you can click right here on the screen for a playlist about that, and I'll see you over there.